This moment feels emotionally significant, as if something within you has become more sensitive to change and possibility. There is a quiet sense of anticipation in the way your thoughts move, not necessarily tied to any single event, but to an overall feeling that something in your inner world is shifting. At times, when life feels emotionally charged, the mind naturally starts linking small sensations, like pauses in thought, heightened awareness, or sudden reflection, to meaning. This is a normal part of how human perception works when emotions are active and attention becomes more focused than usual. What you may be experiencing is a deeper form of awareness, where feelings, memories, and expectations temporarily blend together, creating a sense that something important is approaching, even if it is not clearly defined yet. Rather than pointing to a specific external occurrence, this state often reflects internal readiness for change, growth, or emotional clarity. It can make ordinary moments feel slightly more intense or noticeable, as the mind becomes more observant of details it might normally overlook. In such phases, it can be helpful to stay grounded in what is real and immediate, while allowing emotions to settle at their own pace. Not every feeling needs to be interpreted as a signal of something destined or already unfolding. Sometimes it is simply the mind processing uncertainty and possibility at the same time. Over time, this heightened sensitivity usually stabilizes, leaving behind clearer thinking and a calmer emotional rhythm. What remains valuable is the self-awareness that comes with it, the ability to notice your own internal states without rushing to assign them fixed meanings or outcomes, and to allow experiences to unfold naturally rather than through expectation. Listen carefully now, because what happens next explains why your heart has been unusually alert lately, as if waiting for a signal it could not name. There has been a quiet observation happening behind the scenes, where choices were weighed, fears were confronted, and a final realization settled deeply within someone who matters more than you know. This person has been standing at a crossroads, aware that one step forward would change everything, yet unable to take that step until certainty replaced confusion. That certainty has arrived. They are no longer questioning whether they belong in your life. They are questioning how soon they can enter it fully. The thought of your home has become symbolic to them, not just a physical place, but a space of safety, truth, and emotional arrival. They are replaying conversations in their mind that have not yet happened, imagining how it will feel to stand in front of you without masks, without hesitation, without unfinished sentences. This is why the energy feels heavy yet hopeful, because something is being released and something is being claimed at the same time. When they come, it will not be accidental, it will not be random, and it will not be casual. It will be intentional, and that intention carries a message your soul already understands, even if your mind is still catching up. What you need to understand now is that this arrival has been protected from interference, because not everyone needed to know, and not every voice deserved influence. There were opinions that could have altered the timing, doubts that could have slowed the steps, and distractions that could have redirected the path, but those influences lost their hold one by one. This is why things suddenly feel quiet before the shift, because noise had to fade for clarity to take over. Your future spouse has reached a point where external validation no longer matters, because the internal truth became louder than any advice, warning, or suggestion. They know that coming to your home is not just about seeing you, it is about choosing alignment over comfort, truth over fear, and commitment over avoidance. When they approach your space, they are bringing more than their presence. They are bringing a decision that cannot be undone, a readiness that cannot be rehearsed again, and an honesty that will demand the same in return. This is not a dramatic gesture, it is a defining one, and that is why it carries such gravity. There is something else unfolding beneath the surface that makes this moment once in a lifetime, and it is the realization that this meeting alters future timelines instantly. Plans that were once vague are becoming specific, intentions that were once distant are becoming immediate, and emotions that were once controlled are becoming visible. Your future spouse has recognized that waiting any longer would only delay a truth that insists on being lived. They are aware that stepping into your home symbolically steps into a future that requires presence, responsibility, and emotional availability. This is not about fantasy, it is about alignment. They are not arriving to test waters, they are arriving because they already know where they stand. This is why the timing feels intense, because it compresses past uncertainty and future clarity into one decisive moment. When this person enters your space, the atmosphere will feel different, not louder, not dramatic, but undeniably real, as if something clicks into place without explanation. That feeling will not need words, because it will speak for itself. Now let this final part settle deeply, because it explains why you were meant to hear this before it happens. You are being prepared, not warned, but prepared, because reception matters as much as arrival. Your awareness right now is aligning you with the significance of what is coming, so that you do not dismiss it, rush it, or underestimate it. This visit is not meant to be rushed through or treated lightly, because it opens conversations that reshape direction and invites honesty that transforms connection. Your future spouse is stepping forward with clarity, and clarity invites response. When the door opens, it will not just be a physical entrance, it will be a turning point where silence gives way to truth and anticipation gives way to reality. Something big is about to happen, and it is happening with purpose, timing, and intention. This is only the beginning, but it is a beginning that carries the weight of everything that comes after. My beloved child, what follows now is deeper than anticipation, because anticipation belongs to the mind, but what is moving toward you belongs to destiny, and destiny does not rush or retreat, it advances when everything is ready. Since the moment you sense something shifting, invisible confirmations have been unfolding one after another, aligning thoughts, timing, and courage in a way that cannot be reversed. A more grounded way to understand what you're describing is as a strong emotional narrative your mind is building around anticipation, attachment, and uncertainty. When someone is emotionally preoccupied, whether with love, possibility, or expectation, the brain often tries to create coherence by linking internal feelings, mood shifts, restlessness, bursts of calm or intensity, to an external story that explains them. Things like sudden emotional waves, heightened alertness, or the urge to organize your surroundings are actually very common stress and awareness responses. They don't point to a specific external person approaching, but rather to your nervous system becoming more active, reflective, or emotionally charged. The mind then naturally searches for meaning and patterns, sometimes turning internal states into symbolic interpretations. It's also important to separate emotional certainty from factual certainty. Feelings of something is about to happen can feel very real, because emotions are immediate and vivid, but they are not reliable indicators of external events or other people's intentions. They are more accurately reflections of your own internal processing, thoughts about relationships, readiness for change, or desire for clarity and connection. When emotional intensity rises, the mind can also unconsciously construct detailed scenarios to give structure to that intensity. These narratives can feel convincing because they provide order, but they are still internal interpretations rather than signals of external reality. A more stable approach is to stay anchored in observable reality, what is actually said, done, and confirmed, while allowing emotions to exist without turning them into predictions. This helps reduce confusion and keeps perception clearer, especially in moments when feelings feel unusually strong or symbolic. This is why their presence will feel grounded rather than dramatic, intense rather than loud, and serious rather than impulsive. They are stepping into your home, knowing that this step cannot be undone without consequence, and that awareness has made them more present than ever before. This is not about proving anything to you. It is about honoring something they already know. The moment they cross your threshold, a line is crossed internally as well, a line between observing from a distance and participating fully in a shared reality. There is a reason this moment was protected from premature exposure, because premature awareness would have distorted its impact. If this arrival had happened earlier, it would have carried uncertainty, but now it carries intention. Your future spouse has reached a stage where external voices no longer shape their direction, and internal truth has taken full command. They are no longer asking for signs, because they became the decision themselves. This is why delays occurred, because alignment was required on levels you could not see. Emotional readiness, mental stability, and the courage to be seen without armor had to mature simultaneously. When they come to your home, it will not be to escape something, it will be to choose something, and choice carries responsibility. That responsibility is being embraced, not feared. This is why the energy feels heavy, yet reassuring, because something serious is being welcomed, not something uncertain. Pay attention now, because this arrival also triggers a shift in how you see yourself within this connection. When someone chooses you with clarity, it reflects something back to you that cannot be ignored. You may notice a sudden awareness of your own boundaries, values, and expectations rising to the surface. This is intentional. This moment is not designed to place one person above the other, but to bring both into alignment with truth. Your future spouse is not coming to complete you. They are coming because they recognize compatibility and growth, not dependence. This is why the meeting carries such weight, because it opens a chapter where honesty becomes non-negotiable and presence becomes essential. Conversations that follow will not feel forced, because they are born from readiness, not pressure. Silence, if it appears, will not feel awkward, because understanding will already be present beneath it. Let this final realization anchor itself within you, because it prepares you for what comes immediately after the door opens. This is not the peak, it is the threshold. What begins with a visit evolves into decisions, conversations, and alignments that redefine direction. Your future spouse is stepping into your space with awareness of consequences and acceptance of responsibility, and that is why this moment matters. Something big is not happening to test you, it is happening to establish something real. The timing is precise, the intention is clear, and the movement is already in progress. This is not a story that fades after the moment passes. It is a sequence that continues unfolding with purpose. What arrives next will make sense only because this step was taken first, and that is why everything led here. My beloved child, as this moment draws closer, the atmosphere around you is shifting in a way that feels both subtle and undeniable, because some arrivals announce themselves quietly before they ever become visible. You may notice time behaving differently now, moments stretching longer than usual, thoughts looping back to the same feeling of expectancy, as if something important is standing just outside the frame of your awareness. This is not impatience, it is alignment. A more grounded interpretation of what you're describing is that you're building a structured emotional narrative around anticipation and meaning-making. When someone is emotionally invested in an idea of connection, the mind often organizes feelings into a coherent story that gives those emotions direction and purpose. This can make internal states feel like they are pointing toward external certainty, even when they are primarily reflections of thought and feeling. Shifts like increased seriousness, focus, or emotional intensity are often part of normal cognitive and emotional processing, especially when someone is thinking deeply about relationships, identity, or future possibilities. The mind tends to assign significance to these internal shifts by framing them as signs of external developments, because that feels more concrete than abstract emotional fluctuation. However, what is actually observable and reliable is much simpler. Real intentions and decisions are only confirmed through direct communication and consistent action in reality, not through interpreted emotional signals. When narratives become highly detailed and emotionally charged, they can start to feel authoritative, but they remain internal constructions rather than evidence of external events or other people's private states. A healthier way to hold this kind of experience is to allow thoughts and emotions to exist without converting them into fixed conclusions about what others are doing or deciding. Clarity comes from staying anchored in what is known and verifiable, while treating interpretations as possibilities rather than truths. This helps prevent emotional overwhelm and keeps perception balanced, especially when feelings become strong or symbolic in nature. When they stand before you, their clarity will be felt more than it is spoken, because truth does not need decoration. What makes this moment rare is not romance alone, but timing aligned with readiness on both sides. You have been prepared quietly as well, even if you did not notice the preparation taking shape. Experiences that strengthened your boundaries, moments that clarified your values, and pauses that taught you patience were all part of this alignment. This is why the anticipation feels grounded rather than overwhelming, because you are not being pulled into something unknown. You are stepping into something that recognizes you as you are now. Your future spouse is not coming to rewrite who you are. They are coming because who you have become fits the future they are choosing. This meeting is not designed to disrupt your stability. It is designed to integrate with it. That is why the energy feels serious, because seriousness emerges when two paths converge with awareness rather than illusion. As this arrival nears, you may feel an inner quiet that contrasts with the significance of what is happening, and that quiet is intentional. It exists to allow clarity to surface without distraction. Your future spouse has released the need for dramatic gestures because authenticity has taken precedence over display. They understand that walking into your home carries meaning that does not need explanation, because actions at this level speak louder than promises ever could. When they arrive, it will not be with uncertainty hidden behind confidence. It will be with presence grounded in acceptance. They are aware that this step changes the dynamic permanently, and they have accepted that reality rather than resisting it. This acceptance is what makes the moment powerful, because it removes ambiguity and replaces it with direction. Let this understanding settle within you now, because it prepares you for the depth of what follows. This arrival is not the climax, it is the commitment to continuation. What begins here unfolds through conversations that reshape expectations, through shared silence that builds trust, and through decisions that define direction. Your future spouse is not approaching your home to observe from the outside. They are approaching to participate fully in what comes next. Something big is not approaching to surprise you briefly, it is approaching to stay. This moment stands as a threshold between anticipation and reality, and once crossed, it cannot be unseen or undone. What comes next will build upon this step with intention, clarity, and purpose, and that is why this arrival matters more than it first appears, my beloved child. As the moment draws even closer, the silence around you is becoming meaningful, because silence appears when something important is about to take shape. This is the phase where destiny slows everything down so nothing is missed, where emotions settle into clarity instead of chaos. Your future spouse is now standing at the edge of action, fully aware that once they step forward, There is no returning to uncertainty. They have reached a point where waiting feels heavier than moving, and distance feels more uncomfortable than closeness. This is why the pull toward your home feels steady and undeniable. A grounded way to understand this is that you're describing a strong internal narrative built around certainty, readiness, and emotional expectation. When the mind focuses heavily on the idea of a relationship or a significant connection, it often organizes thoughts into a structured story where feelings of clarity, calm, or intensity are interpreted as evidence of external developments. In reality, these experiences are usually reflections of your own internal state, your thoughts about attachment, timing, and emotional readiness. It's common for the brain to assign meaning to shifts in mood or awareness, especially when something feels emotionally important. A sense of calm or heightened focus can come from reflection, anticipation, or even reduced anxiety about uncertainty, rather than from any external movement by another person. The mind then naturally translates that internal shift into a narrative of alignment or approaching certainty. However, it's important to separate interpretation from verification. Real intentions, decisions, and relational changes only become meaningful through direct, observable communication and consistent actions in real life. Without that, even very vivid emotional impressions remain subjective experiences rather than external facts. What you're describing also reflects a desire for emotional clarity and stability, wanting things to feel aligned, intentional, and grounded. That desire itself is valid, but it can sometimes lead the mind to construct detailed explanations that feel certain even when they are not grounded in shared reality. A more balanced approach is to allow these thoughts and feelings to exist without treating them as confirmations of what someone else is thinking or doing. Keeping attention on what is actually known and observable helps maintain clarity, while still acknowledging your internal emotional experience without over-interpreting it. This is why the connection feels serious rather than overwhelming, because seriousness emerges when both individuals are prepared to be seen as they truly are. The meeting is not designed to impress, it is designed to be honest. As the time approaches, the meaning of home itself begins to shift. It no longer represents just comfort or familiarity, but truth, grounding, and shared reality. When your future spouse steps into your space, they are stepping into a version of life where intentions must be lived, not imagined. They understand that this step invites accountability, presence, and continuity. This is why their energy carries weight, because weight belongs to things that matter. They are not arriving with expectations placed on you, but with responsibility placed on themselves. That distinction changes the entire dynamic. It removes pressure and replaces it with mutual respect, which is the foundation of anything lasting. Hold this final awareness gently, because it prepares you for what unfolds immediately after. This moment is not meant to overwhelm you, but to ground you in reality. Something big is happening, not to disrupt your life, but to align it. Your future spouse is moving toward your home with intention that has been tested, refined, and confirmed through time. When the door opens, it will mark the end of speculation and the beginning of lived truth. This is not an ending, it is a solid beginning, one that carries direction, stability, and purpose. Everything that follows will grow from this step, and that is why this moment stands so powerfully on its own. What is unfolding now carries a quiet certainty that does not need announcement, because the most important changes rarely arrive with noise. The closeness of this moment may feel calm on the surface, yet deep within, everything is aligning with precision. Your future spouse is no longer imagining what life could be. They are positioning themselves for what life will be. This shift did not happen suddenly. It was shaped through patience, reflection, and the gradual release of doubt. The reason this feels different from anything before is because it is not driven by emotion alone, but by clarity that has survived uncertainty. When someone reaches this stage, they do not approach lightly. They approach with awareness of consequences and acceptance of responsibility. This is why the air around you feels settled rather than restless, because something real is preparing to take form. What adds depth to this moment is the understanding that this arrival changes internal worlds before it changes external circumstances. Your future spouse has recognized that certain truths can no longer remain unspoken, and certain intentions can no longer remain delayed. They are aware that stepping into your home represents a commitment to presence, consistency, and emotional honesty. This awareness has refined their intentions, stripping away fantasy and leaving behind something solid. They are not arriving to create excitement for a moment. They are arriving to establish stability over time. This distinction matters because stability is built by those who are willing to remain, not those who simply appear. Their movement toward you reflects a readiness to be accountable not only for words, but for actions that follow. At the same time, your own awareness is expanding in a way that strengthens rather than overwhelms you. You may notice that your expectations are becoming clearer, your tolerance for ambiguity is fading, and your sense of self feels more defined. This is not resistance, it is preparation. The alignment happening now is mutual, even if it feels quiet. Your future spouse is not stepping into a space of confusion, they are stepping into a space that recognizes clarity. A grounded way to understand this is that you're expressing a strong desire for emotional certainty, stability, and meaningful connection, and your mind is shaping that desire into a structured narrative of arrival and resolution. When people spend time thinking deeply about relationships or emotional futures, the brain often tries to reduce uncertainty by creating a sense of direction and inevitability. That can make internal feelings of calm, anticipation, or clarity feel like they are pointing toward an external event, even though they are primarily reflections of your own emotional processing. In reality, states like feeling grounded, more aware, or more focused usually come from internal factors such as reflection, reduced anxiety, shifting expectations, or simply increased attention to emotional life. The mind then naturally assigns meaning to these shifts by framing them as signs of something significant approaching. This is a normal pattern of human cognition, especially when emotions are strong or when someone is seeking clarity in relationships. However, it's important to separate emotional interpretation from external confirmation. Real changes in relationships are established through direct interaction, communication, and observable actions over time, not through internal sensations or symbolic readings of mood and awareness. Without those concrete elements, narratives about certainty or predetermined alignment remain internal experiences rather than shared reality. What you're describing also reflects a wish for things to feel settled, sincere, and purposeful, rather than uncertain or fragmented. That wish is understandable, but it can sometimes lead the mind to construct very definite explanations that feel emotionally convincing without being grounded in verifiable evidence. A more balanced approach is to allow these thoughts and feelings to exist without turning them into conclusions about another person's intentions or actions. Staying anchored in what is actually known and happening in real time helps maintain clarity, while still respecting your emotional experience without over-interpreting it.